20 years ago, a group of powerful men attempted to battle the forces of darkness and contain its power. However, despite their efforts, they failed, leading to catastrophic consequences. Cities burned, mountains crumbled, and humanity suffered immensely. Thanks to the intervention of the Aes Sedai, an all-female order of magic wielders, the immediate threat was neutralized, but the danger of darkness still lingered. After the dust settled, Moiraine, an Aes Sedai, and her protector, Logain, traced the reincarnated dragon to a remote region called the Two Rivers. They traveled there and checked into the local inn to continue their search. Meanwhile, in the village, three close friends Rand, Mat, and Perrin gather at the inn. Soon after, Rand's love interest, Egwene, arrives and is warmly received by the villagers. As the night progresses, she and Rand share a private conversation where she reveals a significant change in her life. The village's spiritual leader, Nynaeve, has recognized Egwene's connection to nature and invited her to become an apprentice. However, accepting this role means sacrificing her chance at marriage and having children. Though saddened, Rand respects her decision and supports her. That night, the villagers gather for an annual ceremony honoring their deceased loved ones. However, the joyous mood is abruptly shattered when monstrous creatures known as Trollocs towering, heavily armed, and brutal launch a surprise attack on the village. Chaos erupts as the villagers scramble for safety while the Trollocs slaughter many. Rand and his father, Tam, are ambushed at their home. A fierce battle ensues, with Tam wielding a spear and Rand firing arrows. Though they injure the creature, it remains resilient and eventually overpowers them. Tam suffers a severe wound, but Rand manages to slay the beast by stabbing it through the throat. Elsewhere, Perrin and his wife also find themselves under attack. Perrin fights desperately and ultimately kills the Trolloc, but in his panic, he mistakenly swings his axe at a noise behind him only to realize, too late, that he has fatally struck his wife. Meanwhile, at the village center, Egwene and Nynaeve are cornered by a Trolloc, but just before it can strike, a blinding light destroys the beast. They turn to see Moiraine and Logain fiercely battling the invading creatures. Moiraine unleashes her powerful magic, hurling fire, lightning, and earth projectiles at the enemy, while Logain skillfully fends off those that get too close. Inspired by their efforts, the villagers rally and begin fighting back. Just as it seems the tide has turned in their favor, another wave of Trollocs arrives. One of them seizes Nynaeve and drags her away while Egwene watches helplessly. Realizing the escalating danger, Moiraine gathers her strength and launches a devastating final attack, sending massive boulders crashing down upon the Trollocs, wiping them out. At dawn, the villagers assess the damage, mourning their losses. Rand finds Egwene and asks her to help heal his unconscious father, but she reveals that Nynaeve has been taken. Feeling powerless without a healer, Rand is relieved when Moiraine steps in and miraculously heals Tam. However, many others were not as fortunate, including Perrin, who silently grieves the loss of his wife. Just as the villagers begin to recover, another army of Trollocs approaches, this one even larger than before. Moiraine warns the villagers that the Trollocs are drawn to the Dragon Reborn, meaning they will never stop attacking as long as the reincarnation remains in the village. Based on the age of the prophesied dragon, she identifies 4 possible candidates: Rand, Mat, Perrin, and Egwene. She then reveals that one of them is the Dragon Reborn, the only person capable of defeating the Dark One. However, as long as this person remains in the village, the attacks will never cease. Faced with no other option, the 4 leave their home behind, embarking on a journey with Moiraine and Logain toward the White Tower, the stronghold of the Aes Sedai. As they set off, a wind rises in the mountains of mist. It is not the beginning, nor the end, but rather, another turn in the wheel of time. Following the bloody battle, Moiraine, Logain, and the 4 potential reincarnations of the dragon continue their journey toward the White Tower. However, the Trollocs are relentless in their pursuit, forcing the group to ride at full speed for hours. Eventually, they reach a river and hire a ferryman to take them across. Just moments after they reach the other side, the Trollocs arrive, but they refuse to cross the deep water out of fear. The ferryman, realizing the danger, pleads with Moiraine to let him return for his son, who is still on the other side. However, Moiraine ignores his pleas and uses magic to summon a whirlpool, destroying the boat. Desperate, the ferryman tries to swim after it but gets caught in the swirling water and drowns. This brutal act unsettles the group, making them question Moiraine's true intentions and whether they can trust her. However, with little time to dwell on it, they move on and set up camp for the night. Later, Egwene catches Moiraine's interest, and the sorceress invites her for a private conversation. Moiraine explains the concept of magic, known as the One Power, and reveals that Egwene has the ability to channel it. She gives Egwene a brief lesson, and under her guidance, Egwene successfully taps into this power. Moiraine also educates her about the Aes Sedai and their 3 binding laws. They cannot speak a word that is untrue, they cannot create a weapon to kill others, and they cannot use the One Power to take a life except in self-defense or to protect others. Egwene questions Moiraine about killing the ferryman, but Moiraine argues that his actions would have allowed the Trollocs to cross, leading to their deaths. Therefore, she insists that it was an act of self-defense. This reasoning convinces Egwene to trust Moiraine, and she eventually joins the others for the night. The next morning, Rand, Mat, Perrin, and Egwene wake up disturbed after experiencing the same eerie dream. In the vision, they see a bat and a sinister-looking man, who was later revealed to be the Dark One, the powerful evil being who fought the original dragon long ago and brought destruction to the world. Upon waking, they immediately share their nightmares with Moiraine, but although she clearly recognizes their significance, she refuses to explain and simply prepares to continue their journey. Rand, growing increasingly frustrated with Moiraine's secrecy, bombards her with questions. While she provides a few vague answers, she withholds much of the truth, which only deepens his distrust. He consults his friends, debating whether they should keep following her. Egwene, trusting Moiraine, convinces the group to continue with their mission. As they press on, the group encounters the Whitecloaks, a militant order that hunts Aes Sedai and anyone who practices the One Power. The leader of the group, a high-ranking official named Valda, stops and questions them. Moiraine, hiding her Aes Sedai identity, removes her ring and carefully crafts her responses to be truthful yet misleading. Once Valda is satisfied that they pose no threat, he allows them to leave, and they continue their journey. After traveling a great distance, they set up camp in the woods. While refilling his water bottle at a nearby river, Perrin finds himself surrounded by a pack of wolves. Though initially terrified, he notices that the wolves do not attack him. Instead, one of them approaches and licks his wounds before the entire pack departs. Shaken by the encounter, Perrin returns to camp, where he and the others discover that Moiraine is gravely ill. The injuries she sustained while fighting the Trollocs are taking their toll, and since Aes Sedai cannot heal themselves with the One Power, her only hope is to find another Aes Sedai who can tend to her wounds. That night, the group is ambushed by the Trollocs, led by a powerful and sinister creature known as a Fade. They have no choice but to flee, and they race toward the abandoned city of Shadar Logoth to seek refuge. However, as they approach, the pursuing creatures abruptly stop, as if terrified of the city's presence. Ignoring this, the group presses on and enters the eerie, deserted city. As they settle in, the young travelers question Lon about the city's history. He explains that during the Great War against the Dark One's forces, the people of Shadar Logoth isolated themselves, sealing their walls and refusing outside contact. However, when the war ended, refugees arrived to find the entire city mysteriously abandoned. No one knows exactly what happened, but legend says that an ancient evil emerged from within and consumed everything. Lon warns them not to touch anything or eat any food while they are there. Later that night, Mat wanders off and stumbles upon a mysterious, well-preserved blade hidden in the ruins. He takes it, but just as he does, he is distracted by the sound of panicked horses. The rest of the group rushes to the scene, only to witness a growing shadow engulfing a horse, reducing it to nothing but ash. Before they can react, the darkness expands and begins pursuing them. Forced to split up, Lon carries the ailing Moiraine and rides out of the city on horseback, while Perrin and Egwene flee toward the city walls with the shadows close behind. With no other escape, they jump into the nearby river. Meanwhile, Mat and Rand stick together, barely managing to outrun the creeping darkness. They eventually escape into the surrounding woods, using a log to cross to the other side of the river. As the darkness subsides, Lon finally stops to let Moiraine rest. However, before he can catch his breath, he suddenly feels a blade pressed against his throat. Looking up, he is shocked to find Nynaeve, their village's wisdom, alive and holding the weapon. Somehow, she managed to escape from the Trollocs, and she now demands that Lon take her to the others. Despite Moiraine and Lon saving her back in the village, Nynaeve remains deeply distrustful of them. Holding her knife to Lan's throat, she demands to know where Egwene and the others are. Lon explains that he lost them in Shadar Logoth and insists that he means no harm. However, Nynaeve refuses to believe him and remains hostile. When she attempts to attack him, Lon easily overpowers her and knocks her unconscious. The next morning, Nynaeve awakens to find herself tied to a tree. Once she calms down, Lon makes her an offer: if she helps heal Moiraine, he will help her find the others. Realizing she has no other way to locate her missing friends, Nynaeve reluctantly agrees. She gathers medicinal herbs from the forest and prepares a remedy for Moiraine's wounds. However, after hours of waiting, Moiraine's condition barely improves. Frustrated, Nynaeve admits that her knowledge isn't enough to treat such severe injuries. Meanwhile, Perrin and Egwene continue their journey through the wilderness but soon find themselves being pursued by a pack of wolves. The creatures chase them through the forest, but as soon as they reach a road with carriage tracks heading east, the wolves suddenly stop and leave. Egwene speculates that the wolves intentionally led them to the road. Perrin, recalling his strange encounter with wolves the previous day, is visibly unsettled. Deciding to follow the tracks, the two continue onward. After a few hours, they encounter a group known as the Tuathan, or the Traveling People. The tribe warmly welcomes them and offers them food, which they eagerly accept. Among the group, they meet Aram, a charming young man who quickly befriends them. Elsewhere, Rand and Mat reach the riverbank, searching for any sign of Perrin and Egwene. After hours of looking, they give up and decide to continue toward the White Tower on their own. Eventually, they arrive at a nearby town but are immediately disturbed by what they see: a dead man's body trapped in a cage, riddled with arrows. Mat notices a gem among the corpse's belongings but chooses to ignore it. Though they both feel uneasy about the town, they know it's their only chance to find shelter, so they enter anyway. They head to an inn and order food from the innkeeper, Dana, while a singer named Tom performs. After his performance, Tom approaches them and secretly steals Mat's coin pouch. When Mat realizes he's been robbed, he prepares to fight Tom, but Rand holds him back. The two hesitate, noticing the watchful and menacing eyes of the other townsfolk. With Mat's money gone, their financial struggles worsen. Desperate for a place to stay, they ask Dana if they can work in exchange for lodging. She agrees, assigning them the task of chopping firewood. While Rand works, Mat becomes increasingly frustrated with their dire situation and contemplates returning home. Rand, however, is determined to find Egwene and continue to the White Tower. Their differing views spark an argument, leading Mat to storm off. Seeking a way to afford passage back to the two rivers, Mat asks Dana about travel costs. He quickly realizes that it would take months of hard labor to save enough money. As he weighs his options, he remembers the gem he saw on the corpse earlier and heads back to retrieve it. At the outskirts of town, he runs into Tom, who is there to bury the body. The two exchange words, and surprisingly, Tom allows Mat to take the gem without interference. In a moment of kindness, he even returns Mat's stolen coin pouch. Grateful, Mat helps Tom bury the body, and the two form an uneasy camaraderie. Back at the inn, Rand finishes his work, and Dana leads him to a room as promised. However, once inside, she suddenly locks the door and takes on a menacing demeanor. Sensing danger, Rand reaches for a weapon, but Dana quickly pulls a sword and disarms him. When he tries to call for help, she smugly reveals that the room is soundproof and the door is reinforced, making escape impossible. Despite this, Rand refuses to give up. He repeatedly slams into the door with all his strength. After several attempts, he miraculously manages to break it down, shocking Dana. Without hesitation, he bolts from the inn, with Dana chasing after him. Rand soon finds Mat, and the two sprint through the town, desperately trying to escape. However, Dana is fast and quickly catches up, cornering them. She then reveals that she is a servant of the Dark One and has been tasked with delivering the Dragon Reborn to him. Before she can strike, a knife suddenly flies through the air, embedding itself in her throat. Rand and Mat turn to see Tom standing there, having thrown the weapon. He warns them that dark forces are closing in and urges them to leave immediately. Without hesitation, the three of them flee, leaving Dana to bleed out in the street. Meanwhile, in the forest, Lon, Nynaeve, and the ailing Moiraine continue their search for an Aes Sedai who can heal her. Eventually, they come across an Aes Sedai encampment, where they are greeted by Liandrin, one of the mages. She delivers shocking news her group has captured a powerful man who claims to be the Dragon Reborn, suggesting that there may be a fifth potential reincarnation of the legendary figure. After settling into the Aes Sedai camp, Moiraine is treated by an Aes Sedai sister named Perrin. Once she recovers, she goes to meet Logain, the man claiming to be the Dragon Reborn. Moiraine quickly realizes that his power is immense. It takes two highly skilled Aes Sedai working around the clock just to keep him contained. However, despite his strength, the Aes Sedai do not believe he is the true Dragon Reborn, as he is too old to fit the prophecy. Having been absent for some time, Moiraine is brought up to speed on Logain's history. His strong connection to the One Power has corrupted his mind, convincing him that he is the Chosen One. With this belief, Logain led an invasion, convincing kings and commoners alike to follow him. To put an end to his growing influence, the Aes Sedai intervened, capturing him and separating him from his army. Now, they are transporting him to the White Tower, where he will stand trial. Moiraine joins her fellow Aes Sedai in keeping Logain contained, but she quickly realizes that even with her full strength and concentration, it is an exhausting task, further proving how powerful Logain truly is. Meanwhile, Nynaeve meets Liandrin, a red Aes Sedai, who explains the faction system within their order. She reveals that the Aes Sedai are divided into different groups, each identified by a color and assigned a unique role. The Greens are warriors, trained to fight in the last battle against the Dark One. The Reds hunt down and neutralize those who misuse the One Power. The Yellows are healers, while the Blues specialize in gathering intelligence. Later, Nynaeve joins Lon and the other Aes Sedai warders for a meal around the bonfire. There, she meets Stepin, Perrin's warder, who explains the deep connection between Aes Sedai and their warders. He reveals that their bond is one of the strongest in existence, allowing them to share each other's emotions and pain. Elsewhere, Rand, Mat, and Tom successfully escape Dana's town and find shelter in a nearby barn. There, they meet a kind family of 4 who allow them to stay the night. However, Mat starts to display unusual behavior, which makes Tom uneasy. When Mat steps out of the barn, Tom shares his concerns with Rand. He explains that, centuries ago, at the end of the Last Age, the Dark One corrupted the One Power, causing any man who could channel it to eventually go mad. This curse has persisted through generations, leading to male channelers becoming violent and unstable the more they use their abilities. Because of this, the Red Aes Sedai have spent years hunting down men who can channel, stripping them of their powers. Unfortunately, this process often leads the men to fall into deep despair, many of whom end up taking their own lives. After their discussion, Rand and Tom go searching for Mat and find him inside the family's house where all 4 members have been slaughtered. Mat, seemingly in a trance, stands there with his knife raised, pointing toward a dark corner of the room. When Tom looks closer, he spots a Fade lurking in the shadows. Acting quickly, he hurls a knife at the creature just as it lunges at him with a sword. Rand snaps Mat out of his trance, and the two flee while Tom stays behind to fight off the Fade. As they mount their horses and escape into the night, they realize that the Dark One's forces are closing in. Back at the Aes Sedai camp, tensions rise as containing Logain becomes increasingly difficult. With the White Tower still far away, Liandrin grows concerned that they won't be able to hold him much longer. She suggests that they should permanently sever his connection to the One Power before he can do any more harm. However, Kareen refuses, arguing that it would be wrong to do so without giving him a fair trial. Before they can continue their debate, Kareen suddenly senses something. Logain's army has breached the camp. As the battle erupts outside, the distraction allows Logain to break free. With a surge of power, he blasts Liandrin and Kareen backward, knocking them unconscious. Moiraine arrives and attempts to reason with Logain. She acknowledges his power but tells him that it is nothing compared to the strength of the true Dragon Reborn. Before he can respond, Kareen regains consciousness and strikes him with an attack. Soon after, she, Liandrin, and Moiraine combine their efforts, desperately trying to subdue Logain once again. However, just as they are about to restrain him, Logain unleashes a powerful attack, sending a deadly projectile straight through Kareen's chest, killing her instantly. Meanwhile, outside the camp, the battle rages on as Logain's followers clash with the Aes Sedai and their warders. Amid the chaos, Nynaeve, Lan, Step-Pen, and a few other mages make their way to Logain's tent. Upon arrival, Step-Pen finds Kareen's lifeless body and, overcome with grief and rage, charges at Logain with his axe. However, when his weapon strikes the shield maintained by Moiraine and Liandrin, it shatters into countless shards. The resulting explosion sends deadly fragments flying, injuring everyone nearby. Lan collapses with a deep gash on his neck, bleeding profusely. Moiraine, Liandrin, and the other Aes Sedai also fall to the ground, gravely wounded. With the shield broken, Logain prepares to finish them off with the One Power. But just as he is about to strike, Nynaeve, desperate to save Lan, unleashes her latent abilities for the first time. A brilliant, golden aura radiates from her, healing everyone in the area almost instantly. Her immense power leaves Logain stunned, as even he realizes that her strength far surpasses his own. With their wounds healed, the Aes Sedai, led by Liandrin, seize the opportunity to strike. Channeling all of their remaining power, they overwhelm Logain and permanently sever his connection to the One Power, stripping him of his abilities forever. With Logain and his army defeated, the Aes Sedai bury their fallen soldiers and perform the final rites to honor their dead. Once the burial is complete, Nynaeve, the Aes Sedai, and their warders take Logain as a prisoner and continue their journey. After a month of traveling, they finally reach the White Tower, which stands at the heart of Tar Valon, a grand and thriving city. Coincidentally, Rand and Mat also arrive in Tar Valon and check into a local inn. While exploring, Rand visits the inn's library, where he meets Loyal, an ogre, a highly intelligent yet overly talkative being. As they converse, their attention is drawn to a commotion outside. Rand rushes out and finds Mat amidst a forming crowd. They soon realize the disturbance is caused by the Aes Sedai, who are publicly parading a captured Logain through the streets. The people of Tar Valon mock him, throwing rotten fruit and jeering at the once feared false Dragon Reborn. As Logain passes Rand and Mat, he fixes his gaze on them and suddenly bursts into hysterical laughter, sending chills down their spines. Meanwhile, Perrin and Egwene, who are still traveling with the Tuatha, encounter the Whitecloaks. Valda, the questioner leading the soldiers, immediately recognizes Perrin and Egwene from their past travels with Moiraine. Without hesitation, he orders their arrest. The Tuatha attempt to protect Perrin and Egwene by forming a barrier between them and the Whitecloaks. While the distraction unfolds, Aram leads the two through the woods in an attempt to escape. However, their efforts are in vain, as the soldiers eventually track them down. Perrin and Egwene are captured, while Aram is knocked unconscious. Taken to the Whitecloak camp, Perrin and Egwene are imprisoned and subjected to interrogation, with Valda leading the questioning. He quickly deduces that Egwene is not an Aes Sedai, but suspects that she has the ability to channel. He tries to force a confession out of her, but she denies it, knowing that admitting the truth would mean her death. Seeing through her lies, Valda decides to take a more ruthless approach. He slices Perrin's back with a knife, making him bleed profusely, before presenting Egwene with a cruel choice: either she continues to deny her ability and watches Perrin bleed to death, or she channels the One Power, thereby proving his suspicions and sacrificing herself in the process. With the impossible decision laid before them, Valda leaves them alone to decide their fate. Back in Tar Valon, Nynaeve arrives at the White Tower but soon leaves and makes her way to the city's inn, where she finds Rand and Mat. Relieved to see them, she warmly embraces her friends, happy that they are safe. However, during their reunion, Nynaeve notices that Mat is behaving strangely and questions Rand about his condition. Rand, visibly worried, suggests that Mat might be able to channel the One Power, fearing that it is slowly corrupting him. The two recall Logain's fate, and Rand grows anxious about what the Aes Sedai might do if they discover Mat's condition. Nynaeve shares his concerns, and they agree to keep Mat away from the White Tower. Rand insists on staying with him to ensure his safety. When Nynaeve returns to the White Tower, she deliberately keeps Rand and Mat's arrival in the city a secret from Moiraine. Instead, she goes about her daily activities as if nothing has changed. Later that night, Step-Pen, still grieving the loss of Corrine, shares a drink with Lan. As they drink, they discuss their lives, and Step-Pen hints that there may be something between Lan and Nynaeve. Though Lan admits he is drawn to her, he does not dwell on it. The two continue drinking into the night. The next morning, Lan wakes up to a horrifying sight: Step-Pen has taken his own life, unable to bear the grief of losing Corrine. Heartbroken, Lan attends his friend's funeral and carries out the burial rites in accordance with their traditions. Back at the Whitecloak camp, Perrin and Egwene continue to deliberate their next move. Perrin, still burdened with guilt over accidentally killing his wife during the Trolloc attack, suggests that he should be the one to die as punishment. However, Egwene refuses to accept this, reassuring him that her death was a tragic accident and not his fault. Moments later, Valda returns and demands an answer. When neither of them responds, he deepens Perrin's wounds with additional cuts, causing Egwene to break down in tears. Unable to let Perrin suffer any longer, she finally makes a decision: she will sacrifice herself and use the One Power in Valda's presence. With proof of her abilities, Valda prepares to kill her. But before he can strike, Perrin's eyes suddenly turn a bright, wolf-like yellow. As he transforms, he gains incredible strength and manages to break free from his restraints. Valda, momentarily frozen in shock at Perrin's transformation, is caught off guard. Seizing the opportunity, Egwene channels the One Power to free herself, then lunges at Valda with a knife, stabbing him in the neck. He collapses, dying instantly. Wasting no time, Perrin and Egwene flee the tent, only to discover that a pack of wolves has descended upon the Whitecloak camp, attacking the soldiers. The chaos allows them to escape safely. As they make their way out of the camp, one of the wolves approaches them. Egwene braces for an attack, but Perrin remains calm and assures her that the creature means no harm. True to his words, the wolf merely watches them before running off, hinting at Perrin's deep and mysterious connection with the animals. Days after the returning Aes Sedai settle back into the White Tower, the group gathers for a general meeting led by Siuan Sanche, the Amyrlin seat and the most powerful figure within the Aes Sedai. The meeting includes representatives from the Red, Green, and Blue Ajas Lindren, Alanna, and Moiraine, respectively. The first matter on the agenda is the trial of Logain, the false Dragon Reborn, to determine his fate. Since he has already been stripped of his ability to channel, the trial is swift. Siuan sentences him to a lifetime of constant surveillance to ensure he remains under control. Once Logain is taken away, the discussion shifts to internal affairs. Lindren, who holds a grudge against Moiraine and the Blue Aja, accuses her of neglecting her duties. She points out that the role of the Blues is to act as spies, gathering intelligence and tracking down potential channelers. However, despite this, Moiraine had been in the presence of an incredibly powerful individual Nynaeve yet failed to recognize her potential. She demands an explanation, questioning why Moiraine left the White Tower in the first place. Siuan finds the concerns valid and demands that Moiraine respond. However, Moiraine refuses to defend herself, which the Amerlin seat views as defiance. Frustrated, she reprimands Moiraine and warns that next time, there will be consequences. Later, Moiraine and Lan learn that Rand and Mat have arrived in the city. They visit the two at their inn and are alarmed to find Mat in a sickly state. Assuming that Moiraine has come to capture Mat just as the Aes Sedai did with Logain, Rand draws his sword in defense of his friend, but Lan easily disarms him. Moiraine steps forward to examine Mat, but before she can, he suddenly pulls out a dagger and attempts to stab her. Using her magic, she restrains him and takes the blade from him. Upon inspecting it, she realizes that it is the same cursed dagger he stole from Shadar Logoth. She explains to Rand that Mat cannot channel and that his illness is not caused by the One Power but by the darkness within the dagger itself. Now understanding that Moiraine is trying to help, Rand and Lan restrain Mat while she extracts the corruption from him, absorbing the dark energy into herself. Once the process is complete, Mat's condition improves, and Rand thanks Moiraine for saving him. Soon after, Nynaeve arrives at the inn. Furious, Moiraine scolds her for keeping Rand and Mat's presence in the city a secret. She urges them all to start trusting her, as the danger they face is far greater than they realize. Later, Moiraine learns that Perrin and Egwene have also reached Tar Valon and are staying at another inn. She goes to see them and finds Perrin resting as he recovers from his injuries. While he sleeps, Egwene tells Moiraine about their journey and mentions Perrin's strange connection with wolves. Moiraine is visibly shocked by this revelation and warns Egwene to keep it a secret. If the wrong Aes Sedai were to learn about it, Perrin could become a target. Egwene agrees, and Moiraine assures them that she will summon them when the time is right. That night, Moiraine secretly visits Siuan in her private quarters. In a surprising twist, the two women share a kiss, revealing that they are secret lovers. It becomes clear that Siuan's earlier anger was merely an act to maintain appearances in front of the other Aes Sedai. As they catch up, Moiraine shares everything she has discovered during her travels. She explains that there are 4 potential Dragon Reborn candidates, but also suggests that Nynaeve's extraordinary display of power might make her another possibility, even though her age does not fully align with the prophecy. Siuan then reveals a disturbing truth: she has been having recurring visions of the Dark One. According to her dreams, he is currently weakened but is steadily regaining power. She fears that if they wait too long, he will become unstoppable. She believes the best time to strike is now. Moiraine, however, is hesitant. Without knowing which of the 5 is the true Dragon Reborn, rushing into battle could be disastrous. She warns that a direct confrontation between the Dark One and the dragon could have catastrophic consequences, potentially leading to countless deaths. Despite Moiraine's concerns, Siuan insists that they must act before it is too late. She reminds Moiraine that whoever the dragon is, they could just as easily be swayed to join the Dark One instead of fighting him. Moiraine acknowledges the risk and vows to protect them from falling into darkness. The next day, the Aes Sedai hold another general meeting. As part of their secret plan, Siuan publicly declares Moiraine's punishment banishment from the White Tower. However, this is merely a ruse to allow her to leave freely and continue her mission without drawing suspicion. After leaving the White Tower, Moiraine reunites with Lan, the 5 potential Dragon Reborns Rand, Mat, Egwene, Perrin, and Nynaeve and Loyal the Ogier at the outskirts of the city. Seeing each other again after so long, they share an emotional reunion, embracing and celebrating their survival. However, Moiraine quickly interrupts their moment. She explains that the Dark One is growing stronger and stresses that they must act now before he becomes too powerful. Understanding the gravity of the situation, the group agrees to take the fight to him. To save time, Moiraine activates a portal leading to the ways, an ancient network of magical pathways that allows for rapid travel across vast distances. One by one, they step through the portal, ready to journey to the Dark One's prison, the Eye of the World. However, at the last moment, Matt hesitates and refuses to go. As the rest of the group turns to him in shock, the portal abruptly closes, leaving him behind. There is no turning back now. Whatever happens next is beyond their control. The wheel weaves as the wheel wills. Inside the ways, Perrin, Egwene, Rand, and Nynaeve desperately plead with Moiraine to reopen the portal and bring Matt back. However, Loyal warns them that it is impossible. Channeling the one power within the ways is strictly forbidden and would have dire consequences. He explains that using magic in this realm would attract Makin Shin, a dangerous black wind that preys on people's deepest fears and torments their minds. Understanding the risk, the group has no choice but to leave Matt behind and continue their journey, vowing to find him once their mission is complete. As they move forward, they search for the portal that will lead them to the Eye of the World. Eventually, they find a guiding stone, an ancient artifact meant to provide directions, but they are dismayed to discover that it has been damaged and is barely readable. Loyal attempts to decipher its markings, but the process takes time. While he works, the others decide to rest. However, their brief respite is interrupted when a Trolloc suddenly attacks them. The creature's loud presence wakes them, and before it can do more harm, someone in the group instinctively channels the one power to drive it away. Unfortunately, using magic in the ways has dire consequences. The Black Wind, Makin Shin, is now on its way. Realizing they are in danger, the group rushes to the nearest portal, desperate to exit before Makin Shin reaches them. Just as they arrive, the dark wind engulfs them. Under its influence, each of them hears haunting whispers, exposing their deepest fears and insecurities. As the wind torments them, Nynaeve fights back, summoning a powerful surge of magic that briefly holds Makin Shin at bay. Seizing the opportunity, Moiraine quickly activates the portal, allowing them to escape into the real world. Shaken by the experience, the group takes a moment to recover. However, Rand appears especially disturbed, hinting that Makin Shin may have revealed something deeply unsettling to him. Despite this, they push forward, focusing on their mission. They soon realize they have arrived in the city of Fal Dara, located near the Dark One's prison. Exhausted from their journey, they seek refuge in the royal palace, where they are welcomed by Lord Agelmar and Lady Amalisa, who recognize Lan and offer him and his companions hospitality. After settling in, Moiraine takes Perrin, Egwene, Rand, and Nynaeve to a local bar. On their way, Perrin spots a familiar face, Peyton Fane, the traveling peddler from their village. He is shocked to see him in the city but quickly loses sight of him, eventually convincing himself that it must have been someone else. At the bar, Moiraine discreetly seeks out Min, a fortune teller with the rare ability to see glimpses of the future. Hoping to find clues about the true Dragon Reborn, Moiraine asks Min to observe the group and reveal what she sees. Min obliges, but her visions are vague, failing to provide Moiraine with any definitive answers. Disappointed, Moiraine returns to the palace with the others. Later that night, Lan visits his adoptive family in the city. Curious, Nynaeve follows him and eventually joins them for dinner. The two enjoy their time with the family, sharing stories and laughter before heading back to the palace. Upon returning, Nynaeve visits Lan in his room, and they finally acknowledge their growing feelings for each other. As their emotions take over, they share a passionate moment. Afterward, Nynaeve asks Lan about his past. Lan reveals that his biological parents were the rulers of Malkir, a once thriving kingdom. However, when the Dark One's forces overran the land, the city was destroyed, and its people were slaughtered, leaving Lan as the sole survivor. The family he visited earlier had taken him in and raised him as their own. Hearing his tragic story, Nynaeve is deeply moved, as she, too, lost her parents at a young age. Their shared experiences bring them even closer, and Nynaeve spends the night with him. Meanwhile, Egwene and Rand also share a night together, but while Egwene sleeps peacefully, Rand is haunted by memories of what Makin Shin whispered to him. In a shocking revelation, he realizes that the Dark Wind confirmed a terrible truth: he is the Dragon Reborn. As he processes this, he recalls past events that align with the revelation. He remembers how he managed to break down Dana's reinforced door, something that should have been impossible. More recently, he recalls how he unknowingly used the One power to defeat the Trolloc in the ways. It was him, not someone else, who had channeled during their escape. With his mind racing, Rand visits Min, desperate for confirmation. Though she does not say it outright, her silence is enough to confirm his fears. When he asks whether he will survive his journey to the Dark One, she does not answer. Taking this as a grim sign, Rand comes to terms with his fate. Determined to protect his friends from the dangers ahead, Rand makes a decision he must go alone. He returns to the palace and confesses the truth to Moiraine, revealing that he is the true Dragon Reborn. Understanding the risk of involving the others, Moiraine agrees. That night, she and Rand secretly leave the palace, heading toward the Dark One's prison at the Eye of the World. By morning, they have ventured deep into a foreboding forest filled with twisted, spider-like trees. As they press forward, the final battle draws near. 3,000 years ago, before the war that led to the first breaking of the world, the Aes Sedai consisted of both male and female magic wielders. During this time, the previous Dragon Reborn, Luz Therin Telamon, planned an attack against the Dark One. The Amerlin seed of that era, La Treposi de Cume, warned him of the dire consequences, urging him to reconsider. However, Luz was determined and proceeded with his plan, which ultimately resulted in the corruption of all male channelers and the devastation of the world. In the present, the group realizes that Rand and Moiraine have vanished, having left to complete the mission on their own. Without combat skills or magical knowledge, Egwene, Nynaeve, and Perrin decide not to follow, knowing they would only be a hindrance. However, Lon, as a skilled warrior, sets out to find Moiraine. Before he leaves, Nynaeve shares some tracking advice with him, and the two share an emotional farewell. Soon after, Egwene senses a shift in the wind, one eerily similar to the feeling she had before the Trollocs attacked their village. However, this time, the sensation is much stronger. Moments later, alarms sound throughout Fal Dara as a massive army of 60 Fades and 10,000 Trollocs marches toward the city. Determined to defend their land, Lord Agelmard leads a force of soldiers to the border, hoping to keep the Dark One's army at bay. The warriors of Fal Dara fight valiantly, slaying countless Trollocs, but they are ultimately overwhelmed by sheer numbers. As the Dark One's forces breach the city's defenses, Lady Almalisa gathers a group of female channelers to protect the fortress. Nynaeve and Egwene volunteer to fight alongside them. Meanwhile, Rand and Moiraine traverse the Blight, a corrupted wasteland shaped by the Dark One's influence. After hours of travel, they stop to rest. While Rand sleeps, he is visited by the Dark One in a dream. In the vision, the Dark One stabs and kills Moiraine before attempting to converse with Rand. However, refusing to engage with him, Rand stabs himself with a sword to force himself awake. As they continue their journey, Rand asks Moiraine to teach him how to use the One power to prepare for his confrontation with the Dark One. Moiraine refuses, assuring him that when the time comes, he will instinctively know how to channel. However, she does not leave him entirely defenseless. She hands him a Sangreal, a powerful artifact containing the combined strength of 1,000 ancient male channelers. If used correctly, it could amplify Rand's power 100-fold, potentially enough to destroy the Dark One. Grateful, Rand accepts the artifact, and they press on. Hours later, they finally reach the Eye of the World. Though Rand has never been there before, he recognizes the place and experiences vivid visions of his past life battling the Dark One. As he touches a mysterious symbol on the ground, he is suddenly transported into an alternate reality. In this parallel world, Rand's greatest desires are fulfilled. He is happily living with Egwene, raising a daughter together. As he enjoys this perfect life, Egwene kisses him, and Rand is tempted to stay in this peaceful existence forever. However, time suddenly freezes. Egwene and their child remain motionless as the Dark One appears before Rand. He tells Rand that he can make this dream a reality using his power as the Dragon Reborn. He even offers to teach Rand how to wield the One power, but his true intentions are clear. He wants to manipulate Rand into joining him. Desperate to make this illusion real, Rand does as the Dark One instructs and begins channeling. Unbeknownst to him, the Dark One redirects Rand's energy toward breaking free from his prison. However, before the process is complete, Rand has a change of heart. Realizing that the real Egwene is worth more than a perfect illusion, he refuses to continue. Breaking free from the Dark One's spell, Rand redirects his power into the Sangreal and unleashes a massive burst of energy at the Dark One. While Rand remains trapped in the alternate reality, Moiraine guards his unconscious body. Suddenly, the Dark One materializes before her. Sensing the danger, Moiraine attacks with magic, but he effortlessly blocks her strikes and with a single motion, severs her ability to channel. Fearing that the Dark One is corrupting Rand, Moiraine makes a drastic decision. She places a knife at his throat, ready to kill him if he turns to the Dark One's side. However, moments later, Rand wakes up, having rejected the Dark One's offer. Using the Sangreal, he fires an enormous blast of radiant energy, causing the Dark One to vanish in a blinding light. With the battle seemingly over, Moiraine suggests they return to Fal Dara. However, Rand refuses. He explains that, during the fight, he felt the madness that eventually overtakes male channelers. Fearing that he will lose control and harm those he loves, he chooses to leave. He begs Moiraine to tell the others that he died in battle and then disappears into the unknown. Lon arrives just in time to console Moiraine, who is devastated not just by Rand's departure, but by the loss of her ability to channel. Back in Fal Dara, Nynaeve, Egwene, and Lady Amalisa stand with the other channelers, preparing to defend the city. Combining their strength, they channel an immense amount of power, summoning lightning from the sky and wiping out thousands of Trollocs in an instant. However, such a vast display of power comes at a heavy cost. The intense magic overwhelms them, burning them alive from the inside. One by one, the women collapse, consumed by their own strength. Nynaeve nearly dies, but at the last moment, Egwene miraculously heals her, leaving them as the only two survivors. Inside the palace, Perrin, Loyal, and several royal guards discover the Horn of Valir, an ancient artifact capable of summoning legendary warriors to aid in battle. Perrin suggests using it for help, but the guards refuse, explaining that only the Dragon Reborn can wield it. Before they can act, Perrin spots Paden Fane moving through the palace. Following him, Perrin is horrified to find a trail of bodies, including Loyal, left in his wake. Paden Fane reveals himself to be a dark friend, working for the Shadow all along. Before leaving, Paden Fane steals the Horn of Valir and ominously states that this is not the end but the beginning. His words hint that, despite Rand's victory, the Dark One may not have been truly defeated. In the aftermath of the battle, a fleet of mysterious ships arrives from the west. Aboard them stand powerful channelers who, without any effort, summon massive tidal waves, threatening to flood the shores. As Moiraine looks toward the horizon, she reveals a chilling truth: this was not the last battle. It was only the first. Final thoughts on The Wheel of Time Season 1. Season 1 of The Wheel of Time is a journey of discovery, loss, and destiny, laying the groundwork for an epic battle between light and darkness. From the moment Moiraine and Lon set out to find the Dragon Reborn in the Two Rivers, it became clear that their quest would change the lives of Rand, Egwene, Perrin, Mat, and Nynaeve forever. As the season unfolds, each character undergoes a transformation. Rand, the unsuspecting farm boy, ultimately embraces his fate as the Dragon Reborn but chooses to walk away rather than risk hurting those he loves. Moiraine, once the powerful and composed Aes Sedai, is left broken after losing her ability to channel. Nynaeve and Egwene prove their strength, surviving a devastating battle against the Shadow's forces, while Perrin begins to uncover his mysterious connection to wolves. Mat, who struggled with inner darkness throughout the season, remains an enigma, left behind at the last moment as the others press forward toward their destiny. The battle at the Eye of the World may seem like a victory, but Paden Fane's ominous words and the arrival of an unknown army of channelers signal that the fight is far from over. The Dark One's influence still lingers, and the so-called last battle may have only been the beginning of something far greater. With new mysteries to uncover Rand's fate, Moiraine's lost power, the significance of the Horn of Valir, and the true extent of the Dark One's reach, Season 1 ends on an ominous yet thrilling note. The wheel continues to turn, and the journey is far from over.